Welcome back to SpectraCamm. Today we're diving into a movie that redefined the superhero genre before the MCU even existed, M. Night Shyamalan's Unbreakable. On the surface, it's a sleek, grounded thriller about a man who survives a catastrophic train crash without a scratch. David Dunn, played by Bruce Willis, discovers he has superhuman strength and invulnerability, all while a mysterious comic book art dealer named Elijah Price, played by Samuel L. Jackson, pushes him to embrace his destiny. The film's visual flair is undeniable. Shyamalan's signature long takes, the muted color palette that pops in key moments, and a haunting score by James Newton Howard. But what makes Unbreakable truly special is how it takes the comic book mythos and strips it down to raw human emotion. It's a story about finding purpose in a world that tells you you're ordinary, and let's be real, the train crash sequence. Pure cinema. The way the camera lingers on the wreckage, then cuts to David's calm, unharmed face. Chills. Every time. So buckle up, because we're about to explore why this film is a masterpiece of visual storytelling and emotional resonance.
But beneath that polished surface lies a deep existential dread that Unbreakable never lets you forget. This isn't a story about a hero finding his calling. It's a tragedy about a man so broken by his own mediocrity that he clings to the idea of being special. David Dunn is a security guard, a failed father, a husband drifting apart from his wife. His survival isn't a miracle, it's a curse. He's trapped in a life that feels meaningless, and the only way he can feel alive is through violence. The film's hidden pain is in its quiet moments. David's son staring at him with desperate hope. His wife's sad eyes as she watches him struggle. And then there's Elijah Price, Mr. Glass, who represents the dark side of fandom. He's so consumed by the need to find a villain that he becomes one, orchestrating disasters to prove a point. The film asks a terrifying question. What if your entire identity is built on a lie? What if you're not the hero, but the catalyst for tragedy? Shyamalan uses the superhero framework to explore trauma, depression, and the human need for meaning in a chaotic world. And that's what makes Unbreakable so haunting. It's not a comfort, it's a mirror.
Let's talk numbers, because Unbreakable is a testament to Shyamalan's vision and the power of smart casting. Bruce Willis, fresh off The Sixth Sense, brings a quiet intensity that grounds the film. Samuel L. Jackson delivers one of his most understated performances, all brittle bones and fierce intellect. The supporting cast, Robin Wright as David's wife, Spencer Treat Clark as his son, adds layers of emotional depth. Shyamalan, coming off the massive success of The Sixth Sense, had carte blanche to make this film, and he used it wisely. The budget was around $75 million, which is modest for a superhero film, but every dollar is on screen. From the meticulous set design of the train wreck to the climactic showdown. At the box office, it grossed over $248 million worldwide. A massive hit. Critics praised its originality and emotional weight, with Roger Ebert calling it thoughtful and moving. The film holds in 70% on Rotten Tomatoes, but among fans, it's considered a cult classic. It even influenced later superhero films like The Dark Knight and Logan with its gritty realism. Unbreakable proved that you don't need capes and CGI to make a superhero movie. You just need a compelling character and a story that hits you right in the gut.
But behind the scenes, Unbreakable was born from a place of pressure and doubt. Shyamalan had just come off The Sixth Sense, a cultural phenomenon that made him the next Spielberg. The expectations were suffocating. He wrote Unbreakable as a personal project, but the studio was skeptical. A superhero movie that's more drama than action? No big battles? No flashy powers? They worried it wouldn't sell. And Shyamalan himself was struggling with the weight of his own success. He said in interviews that he felt like a fraud, that he'd never topped The Sixth Sense, that anxiety bleeds into the film. The production was tense. Willis and Jackson had creative differences, and the ending, where David reveals himself to Elijah, was reshot multiple times. The mental toll on Shyamalan was evident. He later admitted that the film's themes of isolation and obsession mirrored his own fears. He was terrified of being a one-hit wonder, of being seen as a freak like Elijah. And in a way, Unbreakable was a cry for help. A story about a man who wants to be special, but at what cost? The industry didn't embrace it like his previous work. It was seen as a step down. That shadow of disappointment has followed the film for decades, making it a hidden gem for those who look deeper.
Now let's break down the visual climax, the scene where David Dunn finally embraces his power. It's the stadium scene. After saving a family from a car crash, David realizes he can sense the evil in people. So he walks into a football stadium, and the camera follows him through the crowd. The lighting shifts from bright daylight to ominous shadows as he zeroes in on a man in a red jacket. The sound design is incredible. The crowd noise fades, replaced by a low hum. David grabs the man, lifts him effortlessly, and the camera tilts up to show his face. Then, a single brutal punch. The man flies back, and the crowd erupts in chaos. But what makes this scene pure cinema is the build-up. Shyamalan uses every tool in his arsenal. The slow motion, the color contrast, and James Newton Howard score swelling at just the right moment. It's a scene that says, this is what a real superhero looks like. No CGI, no explosions, just raw physicality and moral clarity. And the payoff. David walks away, his son looking at him with awe. It's triumphant. It's the moment we've been waiting for, and it delivers on every level. Pure cinematic adrenaline.
But the emotional climax is not the stadium. It's the final conversation between David and Elijah. After David discovers that Elijah caused the train crash, along with other disasters, to find him, the film reaches its darkest point. Elijah, frail and broken, sits in a padded cell. He's not a villain. He's a man so desperate for meaning that he sacrificed innocent lives. David, the hero, stands before him. The scene is shot in a single static wide shot. Two figures separated by bars. Elijah delivers his monologue. You were always hanging on the verge of death, but you never died. I knew you were special. And David, with tears in his eyes, says, you're not a villain. You're a victim. But that's the tragedy. Elijah's obsession has ruined lives, including his own. The haunting part is that David's heroism is built on Elijah's crimes. Without Elijah, David would still be a security guard, lost and ordinary. The film asks, is it worth it? The cost of becoming a hero is the suffering of others. Shyamalan doesn't let us off easy. The last shot is David walking away, but we feel the weight of his victory. It's hollow. It's a quiet devastation that lingers long after the credits roll.
Yet, despite its dark themes, Unbreakable inspires hope. It's a film that tells us we all have a purpose, even if we haven't found it yet. David Dunn starts as a man who feels useless. His marriage is failing. His son sees him as a disappointment. But through his journey, he discovers that his weakness, his sensitivity, his guilt is actually his strength. He becomes a protector. The film's message is that heroism isn't about superpowers. It's about choosing to do the right thing when it's hard. That scene where he saves the family from the car crash, he doesn't think twice. He acts. That's the kind of inspiration that resonates with audiences. And let's not forget the relationship between David and his son, Joseph. Joseph believes in his father when no one else does. That unconditional faith is powerful. Unbreakable has inspired countless fans to embrace their own ordinariness and find the extraordinary within. It's a film that says you matter, and in a world that often makes us feel small, that's a message we need. The cultural impact is real. It paved the way for grounded superhero stories that focus on character over spectacle. Unbreakable is a beacon of hope.
But it's also a grim warning. Unbreakable shows the danger of obsession. Elijah's need to find a hero leads to mass murder. He's a fan who took his love of comics too far, turning fiction into a justification for violence. The film reflects a dark truth about human nature. We will do terrible things to feel special. Elijah's arc is a cautionary tale about the toxicity of fandom, about how we project our desires onto stories and lose sight of reality. And David? He's complicit. He accepts his role as hero without fully acknowledging the cost. The final scene shows him walking away, but we know he's now part of a cycle of violence. The film ends with a shot of a comic book store, a symbol of the fantasy that led to tragedy. Unbreakable warns us that the line between hero and villain is thin, and that our search for meaning can blind us to the suffering we cause. It's a reflection of human failure, our inability to see the bigger picture, our tendency to justify the means by the end. This isn't a comfort movie. It's a mirror held up to society. And what we see is ugly.
So what's the final verdict? Unbreakable is a must-watch. If you haven't seen it, stop what you're doing and watch it tonight. It's a masterclass in storytelling, acting, and direction. Bruce Willis gives one of his best performances, and Samuel L. Jackson is unforgettable. The film's pacing is deliberate, but every scene builds to a powerful conclusion. It's the kind of movie that rewards multiple viewings. You'll catch new details each time. And it's part of a trilogy. Split and Glass continue the story, but Unbreakable stands alone as a masterpiece. At SpectraCamm, we believe this film deserves more recognition. So hit that like button if you agree. Subscribe for more deep dives and comment below. What's your favorite scene in Unbreakable? Is it the train crash, the stadium fight, or the final conversation? Let us know. And share this video with a friend who loves superhero movies but hasn't seen this one. Trust me, they'll thank you. Unbreakable is more than a movie. It's an experience. Don't miss out.
And in closing, a quiet thought. Unbreakable is a film about broken people. David Dunn is broken by his mediocrity. Elijah Price is broken by his fragility, and the world they inhabit is broken by their collision. The film's final image, a comic book store, closed for the night, is a reminder that our stories, no matter how grand, are ultimately just that. Stories. They can inspire, but they can also deceive. We look for meaning in narratives, but sometimes the meaning is that there is no meaning. David becomes a hero, but at what cost? Elijah finds his villain, but loses his soul. And we, the audience, are left with the uncomfortable truth that maybe we are no different. Maybe we are all just searching for our own breakable identity. And in that search, we might break others. Unbreakable is not a film that gives answers. It's a film that asks questions. And the most haunting one is, are you the hero of your story or the villain of someone else's? That question lingers like a shadow, long after the screen goes dark. Good night.